It's time to eat.
What are you hungry for?
Sit down and get ready to consume an abundance of fantasy football knowledge from Ross Tucker and John Daigle.
Feed me now. I'm starving.
On the Fantasy Feast Eatin' podcast.
Yeah, let's eat, baby. It is the Fantasy Feast Eatin' podcast. We are presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. We are wrapping up our best ball positional rankings tiered from our guy, John Daigle. It's been awesome. Remember, you can always go back and listen or watch youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Any of the other episodes, receivers last week, tight ends and quarterbacks before that. John is all over it. Love his tiered breakdown of the positional rankings for best ball. You can check him out at NotJDaigle on social media, the great John Daigle from EstablishTheRun.com, where they just have a terrific website. There's a reason why they've had so much success. It's Evan Silva, Adam Levitan, a lot of the names you guys know. Use the code FEAST to get 20% off what is a treasure trove of information. The time is now. Like the time is now. The time was actually 3 months ago, if I'm being honest, but the second best time is now to go to EstablishTheRun.com and read all the stuff they have to make sure you're ready for your best ball draft, your season-long draft. We'll certainly do our season-long rankings as we get a little bit closer to August for sure. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman. Most of you know that, at Ross Tucker NFL. You can check us out at Ross Tucker Pod. I get a chance to call a ton of games now. Television for CBS, radio Westwood One. It's an absolute blast. I love these rankings because I love getting a feel for where John has these guys. This is like prep for me for the season. And for running backs, similar to last week, John, you have a bunch of different tiers. You have 8 for the running backs. Last week you had 9 for the receivers. Running back tier is similar in that there's a top tier with not that many guys. You've got Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, and Jahmyr Gibbs.
And although DraftKings is full PPR format, I do think 2025 is a year to go hero RB build. And that is selecting one running back in the first 2 rounds and then hammering wide receiver, at least in the first 6 rounds, right after that for best ball drafts. And so if you can get any 4 of these guys, you've already started strong. I basically want to make my entire personality about Christian McCaffrey this year, though, because it does seem like a league-winning pick. We've already seen 2 full seasons of McCaffrey under Kyle Shanahan, and he finished as the RB2 and the RB1 in points per game. And now he's going at the end of the first round just because last year he was injured. But at least we saw, even in the 2 games he played with Brock Purdy, and again, not at full strength, he still out-touched Jordan Mason 43-2 in those 2 games. Kyle Shanahan has already shown us that when McCaffrey's healthy, when he's available, I shouldn't even say healthy, when he's available, he's going to run him to the ground, and McCaffrey will answer as a top 12 player, if not the overall RB1 in fantasy. So I want to be ahead of that. I want to take our one time ever we get a discount on Christian McCaffrey against Warren Sharp's easiest schedule in the entire league for the 49ers. I want to bank on the 49ers returning at full health with Brock Purdy and a healthy offensive line, Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall, and I want to say this is their year, and this is the year that Christian McCaffrey, like he finally does, after last season, he returns as the overall RB1. So I love getting Christian McCaffrey at a discount more so than any of these other players.
Wow, that's interesting. Obviously, there's a risk there that he does not come back to be the same type of player, but you're comfortable with that risk. I'm curious, John, your thoughts on Saquon Barkley. You know, he's been pretty outspoken that he's, taking some more time off this offseason. That's what he's been told. There's a lot of talk in Philadelphia, where I cover the Eagles, that they don't want to run him into the ground again. They don't want to give him that many touches. They want to throw the ball more. They want to keep him fresh and healthy. Now, we'll see what happens if they lose games or whatever. That sounds good until the season starts. Are you concerned at all about less touches for Saquon?
Usually, I would say I'm worried about that many touches for any running back. It was the most touches since DeMarco Murray actually led the league in touches for Saquon Barkley to reach 460 plus. It's an absurd number how much they used him. But honestly, the opportunity was so good that even regression, even scaling him back, he's once again going to rival for the league in touches. Yes, there will be regression in terms of his explosive touchdown runs. Like you can't naturally sustain how he scored touchdowns with 60-plus yard runs all the time. Otherwise, he'd be the greatest back ever alive. And so there will be some downside to that. But honestly, I've thought through this offseason already, and just the opportunity with Will Shipley as his only competition is so good that I'm not too worried about it. That when you get him in the first round, you just shrug your shoulders and say he'll be fine. Maybe he's not the overall RB1, but it would take just numerous missed games for him to fall out of the top 5, in my opinion.
All right, tier 2. Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, Devon Achane, and Chase Brown. Chase Brown's and Bucky Irving are interesting names that don't seem to be as well known maybe as the other guys.
Let's start with Chase Brown because he usually goes at the beginning of the third round, which, again, this tier, these guys like Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry are going at the end of the first round. But Chase Brown deserves to be there after this offseason where he avoided literally all the landmines that were in his path. No significant draft capital added in the backfield, and Zach Moss brought back for the veteran minimum, roughly $600,000 that Zach Moss is making to return on a 1-year deal. So not competition. Chase Brown wasn't necessarily explosive when he stepped in last year in the second half of the season for Zach Moss, but he did get every single touch, and that's what we're banking on again. With no competition, we're expecting to have 23-plus touches a game and those same 5.5 targets he averaged in a pass-first offense. And so just the fact that he avoided any competition whatsoever, Chase Brown once again deserves to be treated as he was used in the second half of last year, and we should get at least a round higher on our boards as I have him in this tier. Bucky Irving, again, is coming back as the Bucs RB1. And just on the way he was used over the last 2 months of the season, when rookie running backs do tend to emerge, he was a 15-plus touch guy, well ahead of Rachaad White that had fallen out of favor. Rachaad White was still used on some passing downs, but Bucky Irving, outside of getting banged up because he's such a physical runner in a handful of games, was clearly the Bucs RB1 and should be treated as such in the mid-second round, beginning of the second round. And so that's where we have him in our tiers right now. Devon Achane's another interesting one as well because when Tua played last year and Tua starts, Achane was the RB2 in fantasy. When Tua did not play, Achane was the RB40 in fantasy. Entirely different, and it should not fall off that much based on the Dolphins' quarterback play. But assuming the Dolphins upgraded their pass protection this offseason, and assuming Tua's healthy for a majority of the season, then yes, we can go back to Achane as an RB1 this year.
Yeah, I'm not sure they did upgrade their pass protection. I think
a good
they
question
did,
mark,
but we will find out. All right, tier 3, you got Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, our second rookie, and Omarion Hampton and James Cook. A couple guys in this tier, having contract situations right now with James Cook and Kyron Williams.
And we'll see what happens. Kyron Williams, at least it sounds like they're getting close to a contract extension, which is interesting because they've used somewhat relevant draft capital on both Blake Corum and Jarquez Hunter the last 2 seasons. It seems like McVay is looking for more explosive runs. Like Kyron Williams carries the load, is an amazing pass protection, and is a great short yardage back. But really, he hasn't been explosive, and he's depended on, like Chase Brown last year, getting 20-plus touches per game. If either Hunter or Corum dent that opportunity, even the slightest bit, you could see Kyren Williams very easily fall off like the top 12 range and just not return his ADP at all. And so he is a player I will take, but I'm definitely going to be underweight on because I am concerned about Hunter or Corum coming for that workload just because they turn out to be the more explosive back. Having said that, again, Kyren Williams has led Sean McVay's backfield in touches in 30 consecutive games in the last 30 games he started. So maybe they just love Kyren overall. And then, yes, James Cook is one that it doesn't sound like they're close at all to an extension. Doesn't sound like they want to extend him at all anyways, especially with Ray Davis behind him. We saw Ray Davis go for 120 yards from scrimmage in his lone spot start for James Cook last year that Cook missed. And Cook really, it came down to touchdowns for him, which is why he finished so high in fantasy. Best ball players have already picked that up, which is why he's going in the third or fourth round, which, if you go solely on his points and touchdowns, he would be a into first round, second round pick. That's where he's going to go in home leagues. But right now in best ball leagues, yes, appropriately in the third or fourth round, and someone I'm definitely concerned about just for the sheer touchdown regression that's naturally going to happen playing with Josh Allen and based on the converted number of carries he turned into touchdowns inside the 5-yard line.
Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. The weekend will be here before you know it, which is Smirnoff time. Listen, they do game days even in the off season. Anytime you're going to have fun on the weekend, as far as I'm concerned, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday, that is a game day. There's no I in fandom, all right? Rally together with your friends and family. It's the perfect vodka for crafting delicious cocktails. In fact, you can grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com to find recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. They had like 5 or 6 on there I never heard of. I'll tell you about them next week. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. We referenced Genti and Amari and Hampton. I feel like we talked about the rookies a lot when we were ranking the rookies and their fits and stuff. So I'll just go on to tier 4 for right now, which is Kenneth Walker III, Chuba Hubbard, Alvin Kamara, Travion Henderson, another rookie, Joe Mixon, James Conner, DeAndre Swift, and David Montgomery.
DeAndre Swift, like Chase Brown, had a tremendous offseason. The only back the Bears really added in draft capital was 7th-rounder Kyle Monagai from Rutgers. And so if Swift's lone competition is Roschon Johnson, who was picked by the last regime, and a 7th-round running back, that's great for Swift. The last time Swift also played under Ben Johnson, his lone year with Detroit, he finished as the RB16 in PPR. That was the year Jamal Williams led the league with 17 rushing touchdowns. So maybe, like the Bears used Roschon last year as their goal line back, maybe that's the case again where Ben Johnson views Roschon as their short yardage back. But we don't know that since we've never seen Roschon play under Ben Johnson. So right now, just on competition alone, DeAndre Swift was a big winner, especially for season-long leagues, based on this offseason. Someone I'm confident in as an RB2 this year. I think the one player I'm concerned about here is Chuba Hubbard, if only because we're talking about a career high in carries and touches he's coming off, and it was his 4th year. He was only 25 years old. They extended him last year, so it makes sense that they relied on him. But Dave Canales has been pretty adamant for the year we've dealt with him that he wants to run a committee, so much so that they drafted Jonathan Brooks, obviously, with day 2 capital just last offseason. We're not going to see Jonathan Brooks again this year. And then drafted Trevor Etienne this past season, signed Rico Dowdle in free agency. So it suggests that Canales does, as he mentioned time and time again, wants to run a committee and does not want to rely solely on Chuba Hubbard. And so among this tier, I would say I'm most worried about Hubbard's workload carrying over from last year. But again, if you get to this range, you don't have an RB yet, someone I will still take in best ball.
Tier 5, you got another rookie. You got several of them, but you got R.J. Harvey from the Broncos, Aaron Jones, an oldie but a goodie with the Vikings, Quinshon Judkins in Cleveland, Tony Pollard, who I thought had a really kind of under the radar nice year with the Titans. Pacheco is an interesting one with the Chiefs, Jalen Warren in Pittsburgh, Caleb Johnson. You got both Pittsburgh guys there, Brian Robinson in Washington, Najee Harris out with the Chargers now, Jordan Mason is in Minnesota, Tyrone Tracy Jr. in New York, and Zach Charbonnet in Seattle. It's interesting, a lot of teammates here. Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in Minnesota, Jalen Warren, Caleb Johnson in Pittsburgh. Talk to me about having some teammates here.
Aaron Jones is a really interesting study case for this year, and I believe I'm going to naturally be fading him in every draft, especially in season long, just because we are talking about a guy who had 300 touches for the first time in his career at age 30. And so can he replicate that, especially given his history of injuries? Recall the Packers, even in running for 100-plus yards in 5 consecutive games to finish the year with the Packers in 2023, even that organization said, we can't use you. Like, we cannot rely on you based on your injury history. Last year, he basically stays healthy, but again, having that career-high touches at that age, it resembles Raheem Mostert from last year, someone that had an 8th-round ADP incorrectly, and obviously incorrectly last year, but had an 8th-round ADP. It seems like that's the way Aaron Jones is going to go, especially after the Vikings, with finite draft capital, still sent a pick to the 49ers for Jordan Mason. So not only does Jordan Mason, do we think, have short yardage touchdown outs, but perhaps dents Aaron Jones' opportunity even further, since the Vikings even showed last year they were interested in getting Cam Akers involved to keep Aaron Jones fresh. And so I do think Jordan Mason is someone who I'll even have in season long, because there are multiple outs for him to have success here with this offense and just trump Aaron Jones in terms of volume until the postseason. Aaron Jones is someone I'm very worried about. And then for the other teammates, like we already talked about Amarian Hampton, or we didn't discuss, we talked about Amarian Hampton in our previous rookie episodes, and someone that's in a couple tiers higher here than Najee Harris. But that's in terms of best ball, and we know we are targeting rookies to break out in the second half of the season of our best ball lineups. Najee Harris is someone who's already impressed in minicamp and probably will, at least in the first half of the year, get used in a thunder and lightning approach in a 2-back system under Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. So I definitely think Najee Harris will be serviceable, but the second half of the year, I'm looking for Hampton to break out. And then the other teammates, we'll just have to, again, this is best ball, so it's harder to pinpoint, which is why we're targeting the explosive guys off the bench. But Tyrone Tracy, Zach Charbonnet, clearly in committees with Cam Skattebo and Kenneth Walker. How those committees shake out, we're just unsure of. But at least we've seen, like, Tracy and Charbonnet, when they get the opportunity to lead their backfield in touches, they have both proven they are very explosive and can have top 12 weeks, which is what we're looking for in this group of guys. So definitely 2 players I don't mind drafting and just crossing my fingers it shakes out appropriately for us.
Tell me what you're thinking, John, about Isaiah Pacheco, because that's an interesting one that a lot of people are curious about.
A player who the Chiefs very clearly leaned on and led his backfield in touches for basically a season and a half until he got seriously injured last year. He returned, like Nick Chubb, and was very inefficient, which was always the concern. So I don't even look at the numbers when he returned. They couldn't use him. We bet his props under in the playoffs just because it was clear he was still hampered, and the Chiefs were rolling him out because they had no other options. That's the thing. That's the positive case, is that the Chiefs had no other options, and we've seen Pacheco be explosive and handle every touch in the past. The downside would be that they've been one of the least efficient rushing offenses, basically for now 2 seasons, especially last year, and they are looking for anyone to provide carries of 10-plus yards. Enter Elijah Mitchell, who, when he's been healthy, has been a walking explosive play. And so that's the guy that would be coming for Pacheco, is their offseason addition of Elijah Mitchell. But again, Elijah Mitchell hasn't been healthy, and we haven't seen it from him for a couple years now. So it can go either way for Pacheco, honestly, which is why he's in one of these middle tiers.
More great stuff right after this. I had a heck of a weekend, and if you saw, I was drinking some Labatt Blue Light Lime at the beach. And with buy beer, get gear from Labatt, just head to the website, snap a photo of your receipt, snap a photo of your beer too, and send it to me on social media. Upload it instantly to rack up points for exclusive merch. You can get points for every purchase at any store, bar, or stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labatt. I love this promotion. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up. Tier 6, Cam Scatabo, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Rashad White, Bashal Tutin, and Tajay Spears.
Guys you could see leading their backfield in touches sporadically from time to time, and just committee individuals that we'll see how they shake out. Again, the Tracy Scatabo movement will be interesting just because, as we talked about, Jordan Renan of ESPN already mentioning that the rookie is the one who's being used in passing downs, when that's arguably Scatabo's worst trait coming out of college is pass protection and receiving the ball. Tracy also the far more explosive athlete whose really only issue last year was fumbling. And he's already been working on that, doing extra grip strengthening drills during OTAs and minicamp. And so if Tracy does prove to hold on to the ball, and this is a problem for a lot of running backs early in their careers where they're extremely explosive, they get the touches based on that, but they just fumble the ball, and then they go correct that in the offseason. If Tracy corrects that, he's going to emerge, in my opinion, well ahead of the rookie. And so we'll see what happens with that backfield. But nonetheless, we understand that there are many ranges of outcomes. And so we're going to take chances on him, on Travis Etienne, Stevenson, although as we saw with Travion Henderson and a couple tiers higher, we're still banking on Henderson to emerge in the second half of the season from Drake May. And Bashal Tutin, again, with Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby also in the next tier. It's basically three guys there. We're now getting into the tiers of committee players that, for best ball, we don't have to pick the correct week to start these guys. Having the highest score on our bench will do that for us, which is why best ball is so much fun. We don't have to worry about the weekly start-sit headache. But in terms of season-long, all these players are questionable because it's going to cause a headache starting them correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think a lot of these guys, it's interesting. This is almost like the disappointment tier, right?
Yeah.
Where Javonte Williams, White, Stevenson, a bunch of guys that for different reasons kind of disappointed a year ago.
But if Bucky Irving or Tony Pollard, for example, were injured, then Rashad White and Tajay Spears, they immediately become literally top 12 running backs. So that's why you draft these guys in best ball. If not, again, on DraftKings, hammering wide receivers early, and then come back and draft 6 to 8 of these guys because we don't have to predict that opportunity. We can just say, okay, I have these guys just in case the starters are injured, and so we are setting ourselves up for success strategically.
Tier 7, you got J.K. Dobbins, Jayon Blue, Tyler Algier, Austin Eckler, my guy that was on Ross Tucker Football Podcast last week, Trey Benson, Isaac Guerendo, people forgot about him, Tank Bigsby, Ray Davis, and Roshan Johnson.
Speaking of explosive plays, Isaac Guerendo, who is now the direct backup to Christian McCaffrey, walking explosive. Anytime he was asked to come in for Jordan Mason, absolutely delivered, so much so that he even had 2 instances at the end of games where he slid and didn't score a 60-yard touchdown because, the 49ers had put the game away. So Guerendo's numbers would have looked even better in terms of fantasy points had he scored those couple of touchdowns rather than doing the correct thing and sliding. Not like Devon Achane, who, up 30-plus points in one of the final weeks, still ran in for the long touchdown, didn't care about the score at all. So, Guerendo's someone to be very excited about just in case Christian McCaffrey is injured. You already mentioned, there is some concern there, and if there is concern, then you should be drafting Guerendo in every league because that's your response. That's how you leverage Christian McCaffrey perhaps being injured and being a first-round pick. Outside of that, we've already mentioned Javonte Williams in the last tier, not Trey Benson, Jaden Blue in this next tier, and then Miles Sanders in one of the very last tiers. It is interesting how rooms are treating Javonte Williams basically 8 rounds ahead of Miles Sanders when they are in a competition and splitting reps at minicamp and OTAs right now. Miles Sanders were also, it's been a couple years, but still had a very successful season with double-digit touchdowns and top 24 finish with the Eagles as well, if you go before his career with the Panthers. And so right now, I think everyone should be drafting either Jaden Blue or Miles Sanders just to leverage that, in my opinion, incorrect ADP for Javonte Williams, since there is no clear starter for the Cowboys right now.
The last tier we're going through today is tier 8. Justice Hill, Rico Dowdle, Braylon Allen, Will Shipley, Jalen Wright, Jerome Ford, Dylan Sampson, Marshawn Lloyd, and Blake Corum.
The backups that, again, we're trying to prepare ourselves to have success if their starters are injured. The big ones here are Will Shipley, who, after Kenneth Gainwell left for minimal money to Pittsburgh, it is reportedly because the Eagles have already entrenched Shipley as their RB2 behind Saquon Barkley. So if you are worried about that league-leading touches wearing down on Barkley, or you do think Sirianni is serious in scaling Barkley back to keep him fresh for the postseason, Will Shipley is right there in the last round of drafts for you to have. And even one usable week in terms of scoring for fantasy, that's worth a 19th, 20th round pick. So Will Shipley is someone I love in this range. And then also Blake Corum, because he is in direct competition with Jarquez Hunter, despite Hunter's ADP being higher.
Check him out on social media. As you can tell, he's fantastic. At Not J Daigle. Remember, you got that awesome discount, 20% at establishtherun.com when you use the code FEAST. Hard to believe next week it'll be July already. July, that's when training camps open. I'm fired up. I'm stuffed. We're done.
Thanks for tuning in to Fantasy Feast. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcasts on your favorite platform.